So like I am with everything, I take a long time to absorb a new piece of art, whether it be a new movie, an album, and in this case, a game. Though it didn't take me over a year to get fully immersed into it, like another piece of art I'm currently obsessed with, still it did take a lot of my time, energy, and alcohol-filled nights to complete what I think is one of the best games of the year, Vampyr. It unintentionally rhymed, that was kinda cool. And I know what you're thinking, it's only been out for a few months, how can you say it's the best? There's a bunch of games that's still yet to come out. I mean, have you heard of Red Dead Redemption 2? It's coming next month. Why are you jumping to bold conclusions? I mean, allow me to explain in a way that hopefully will make me sound pretentious and inflated with nonsense, but I guess we can already say that's too late. But anyway, here's my take on why Vampyr is not only one of the best games of the year, but it's truly one of the best vampire games in general. So let's, sink our teeth. So Vampyr is the newest release from Don't Not Entertainment, you know, the same folks who made Life is Strange. And honestly, I've kind of been a fan of Life is Strange, even though the dialogue choices are kind of wonky, to say the least. The formula of the game I find really fascinating, especially games with choice, and the aesthetic of the game I find really interesting. But it has a decent story, decent characters, kind of a meh conclusion, and meh gameplay to say the least. The element everyone loves in those games are choice, and where your choices did matter in that game, a lot of developers nowadays seem to enjoy giving their player the illusion of choice. The illusion of choice makes the gamer feel as if their choices have an impact on the game and the world surrounding it, even though the outcome will always be the same no matter what the player does. But in this case, Vampyr, I mean, all your choices matter. Like, all of them. London, 1918. A city fermented from the ravages of war and disease. Our protagonist is Dr. Jonathan Reed, a dedicated surgeon.
There's time. I can save him. That's the enemy coming! The orders are to evacuate the hospital! Done. He'll live. Are you referring to me? No! No! I still have so much to accomplish!
He returns to the home front but is mysteriously awoken in a mass grave. The only thing driving him is a sudden hunger. Unfortunately, and unbeknownst to Jonathan, his first victim to his bloodlust is none other than his own sister.
Mary! Oh, no! Mary! Hold on! Please, hold on! Oh, God. Mary! Mary! No, no.
Now first off, what an amazing representation of bloodlust. All you see is a gray, desaturated surrounding, and highlighted is the neon red that drives you. When I first experienced this scene, I was already immersed. Like, I was impressed that the kind of story we're gonna get is a macabre one. And having Jonathan's first victim being his own sister, it's a pretty dark beginning for this story, and it only gets more interesting from here on. After Jonathan realizes what he's done, as Mary dies in his arms, he's immediately hunted, thus beginning his new life as a target. Now, I won't go into spoiler territory, but what I'll say is that the story is important here. It's a driving force of this game. The characters and narrative are essential to the construction of the experience, especially the citizens of the 4 districts that you discover. The story, overall, in my opinion, it's pretty great. It's not perfect by any means, it's not Last of Us or Half-Life, but it serves as a great gothic tale that serves as a fresh, unique take on a very limited subject in games. It's a roughly 15 to 20 hour game, 25 if you take your time to explore, level up, and take care of the districts. The key thing I want to remind you is that though you are a creature of the night and that shit's cool no matter what, it creates conflict. Jonathan is a doctor, his life is dedicated to healing the sick and caring for his community, but now he relies on feeding from them to survive. And a cool mechanic of the game is that you level up faster when you feed on the citizens, and the game pretty much wants you to. But you can go through the entire game without feeding on a single person. But prepare for some butthurt, cause that shit's gonna get really hard. But that's the joy of the game. That decision to set aside your primal urges to thirst on the innocent and save the city of an epidemic, or to become the ultimate vampire and kill all those you've sworn to protect. Your choices impact the game drastically, sanitizing everything of sickness or plunging districts into chaos and letting the scourge of evil reign. It's all up to you.
So be it. Rational thinking only.
So yeah, as you saw, combat in this game can get pretty hectic. Honestly, it's awesome. It's some of the best, like, fighting that I've had in a game in a long time, rather than the typical games that I usually play. Even with the more combat-heavy games that I do play, similar to, you know, Dark Souls and Bloodborne, it's definitely one that I think stands in its own right as something that I feel is unique to this game in particular. Maybe not completely. A lot of the elements are very much borrowed from a lot of, you know, common fighting games. The whole attack, dodge, stun mechanic. It's difficult to get used to, especially starting out when you're a newborn and you haven't quite figured out what your powers are, when you haven't even touched your skill trees yet. Later on, when you learn to embrace your powers, you realize that you have so much potential to be something greater. Like, you have these abilities where you can shoot a spear of blood towards a shit ton of enemies, or you can use claws and do a lot of melee damage just at one time, and then you have these ultimate abilities, kind of similar to like Overwatch, and then you can either slash at a bunch of enemies at once, and then There's an ability where you can just lift them up off the ground with some shadowy mist and snap their spine. It's crazy. It's awesome. I will admit, it's not something that I think a lot of people can really harness or really get themselves involved with at first, maybe. You know, they might see it as like an inconvenience to the story because, you know, you have to fight a bunch of enemies to get through each district because, of course, there's the Guard of Predwin that kind of just stands around and they're just a bunch of vampire hunters with nothing to do except just fulfill this sort of weird, like, cultist regime or some shit. And then you have Skulls, which are basically these vampires turned sour, practically. They didn't quite really get to that potential of being a vampire, so they kind of just got stuck in this weird sort of position where they're just like these evil vampire zombie type creatures. A lot of them are kind of difficult. They have powers that are similar to you, where some of them can teleport, some of them can, you know, suck blood out of you, so they're worthy opponents, and they kind of serve as like the basis for the result of the epidemic. And an interesting mechanic I want to talk about too is how you use your weapons. There's one-handed weapons that are pretty much just like swords and bludgeons and other stuff like that. And on the other hand, you can use something to stun enemies with, like a stake or something, and it's able to add some stun points. That way you can be able to get on top of them and like start sucking blood out of them, which not only fuels your health bar, but also fills your blood meter as well. I'm glad that Dotnod decided to use the whole concept of using blood as a weapon and using it as like the source of all your power and the source of all these abilities. I think it's really cool. And they have guns too, but the guns are kind of underwhelming at first. They don't really do a whole lot of damage, you know, starting out, but later on when you start to upgrade your weapons and, you know, getting them to be more powerful, adding firepower, and you can even change the type of damage that certain guns do, like whether it be fire, chemical, or just standard damage. But then you also have two-handed weapons, which I like using a lot because they do more damage output, and they also do stun damage as well. So you kind of get both done at once, instead of just having to do your melee damage, then do stun, and having to balance the two out, when you can just do both at once, and it does a shit ton of damage, but at the cost of stamina. So you kind of have to work around and see what works for you, whether you're a fast, aggressive player like myself, or are you the type of person that wants to be able to outwit your opponent, you know, work in, get good jabs in every once in a while, dodge and maneuver around and make sure you don't get hit, because if you do get hit, it's bad.
Now that's a lot of damage!
The style of gameplay is all up to you, whether you want to use these weapons or you want to focus on your abilities more. It's really your playing field here. And like I said, I won't go into spoilers, but I will mention that there are a lot of bosses in this game. You know, some are easier than others, and some of them can be underwhelming, but in all, some of these bosses are kind of interesting. You do meet some that are pretty prevalent to the story and pretty interesting to see, like, how they incorporate themselves into, you know, that role of being like that big maniacal boss thing. It's interesting, and the bosses are fun. They can be really hard if you're trying to do a sanitized playthrough and you're not leveled up enough. You're gonna have a really bad time. There'll be moments where you get killed in one hit, and it's kind of discouraging, and it's really difficult. But I think the combat is something to be impressed with here. I think Dotnod did something that was really amazing, and I really want them to focus a lot more on games with this kind of combat or a similar kind of combat. Sort of like this violent mental chess game with your opponents. Something about that really just intrigues me, and I like combat like that, so. But like I said, there are different enemy variations, and some are obvious and others become obvious with time and your choices.
Slowly, vampire. Who are you? I mean you no harm, saith the vampire. Present yourself. I need a word. Anyone. Well, that's something I can do for you.
And who might you be?
As with vampiric tradition, vampires need blood. Blood is what keeps their undead tummies full, so Vampyr decides to construct their own much-needed vampire simulator experience, which they call Embracing. After the prologue of the game, you arrive at Pembroke Hospital, which serves as your neutral central hub for curing citizens of random diseases. The first citizen you encounter there is Clay Cox, who is just straight up getting stabbed by some random dude.
Oh, come on, you bastard! I won't bite.
Sir, please. You've lost too much blood. Calm yourself.
You think I didn't notice? Stop your staring and get me to an hospital, you arse!
That's a very nasty wound you've got there. Take my word, I am a doctor. Dr. Jonathan Reed.
Name's Clay Cox. I'd appreciate you helping me to a better place, Doc.
Follow me, Mr. Cox. Let me assist you to that better place.
You talk to him while he's bleeding out, and you're introduced to the Mesmerize mechanic. Your Mesmerize level increases after important events in the story. The higher the level, the more people you can eat. You are given your first important decision here. You either embrace Clay and get that sweet XP, or you let him live, get to know his character, prevent the district from suffering morbid consequence. It's the same with every character you encounter. Each have a name, story, and personality to complete side quests and further the main story. One important inclusion is hints. You unlock hints by talking to them and talking to other citizens in their social circle, or even by finding particular items. The more hints, the higher the blood quality, meaning more XP to earn if you embrace them. Citizens can also get sick, so you'll need to carry medicine with you, because if they're healthy, so is their blood. Once you have a high enough Mesmerize level, you can control their mind, lead them somewhere hidden, and do what vampires do. The creepy and fascinating element that Don't Nod cleverly inputted is the final thoughts that they have as you take their life. Some of them are quite tragic, and you feel kinda bad about it.
I'm not afraid anymore. I died in this trench a long time ago.
But at the same time, you're just like, you know, I'm trying to get that fucking ability, so. Then the important text pops up on screen afterwards saying, "The district will soon suffer the consequence of your action." When you go to level up and get that sweet new upgrade, you see the layout of the district, and you see the person that you killed. The district level goes down, the economy plummets, leaving room for the epidemic to make its move to erupt chaos. Now, when it came to a vampire game, I had no idea that this is exactly the kind of thing that I wanted. This is basically what I said earlier. It's kind of just a vampire simulator. You go around, you talk to citizens, you understand who they are, and then when the moment is right, you pull them away and you strike and you take their blood, and then you just feel as if like you really are a legendary creature of the night. Kind of gives you that classic sort of feel of like the dark, gothic, tragic figure that is basically just feasting on the people that he's surrounded by. And it's kind of interesting. I really love this mechanic. And hardly anyone is out of the question when it comes to embracing. Literally any NPC that you find in any of these districts, you can kill. And that's crazy. There is no one off limits except for individuals that you meet like throughout the game that serve very high importance, such as Dr. Swansea and Lady Ashbury. Even then, it's like every other character besides them has a attainable Mesmerize level. So even a character that's important, such as some of the doctors and nurses that are in Pembroke, you can feast on them, meaning that if you take their life, it could be the defining moment between a healthy district and a chaos district. And even through important moments of dialogue, you have the decision to spare them, embrace them, or even a secret dialogue hint. It's really impressive. Now, I could go more into detail about the embrace mechanic with certain characters, but I don't want to give too much away because I feel that you need to experience this for yourself, especially when it comes to really important characters that you develop a bond with, or certain situations arise where you feel like you could have made a certain decision that probably would have fixed some issues, and you eventually have to face certain consequence, and some crazy shit can happen. So I feel that you should probably go through that yourself, play the game, go through these characters, talk to them, embrace whoever you feel, and then I feel like it's better than just me explaining how it works. And I don't want to spoil that experience for you, because honestly, me not seeing a lot of gameplay before buying the game and playing it myself, it really helped me attach it to it more and kind of helped me understand why these choices are important and why this mechanic is so prevalent and so unique to this particular game. Each person you meet, each citizen that you embrace, it could mean a sanitized, happy ending where everyone's fine, you save the districts, all that, or you become the very thing that you swore to protect these people from. And honestly, it makes it one of the best games I've played in a while, is that kind of choice and that kind of impact. I just think it's awesome. Like, this mechanic that makes Vampyr one of the best vampire games I think that has ever been made.
Listen to the sound of my voice. I'm a doctor. You're suffering from shock.
I must return to my flock. They'll stray without me.
Remember, certain skulls are every bit as resistant as we are.
Who are you? What do you mean by Skal?
You truly are a newborn. I should have realized.
Wait. You are the woman from the bar. Are you like me? Can you help me?
I believe, sir, I already have.
So in conclusion, Vampyr is a fantastic game. If what I showed you is not enough to persuade you, then that's fine. If this isn't the type of game that you feel that you can immerse yourself into, if it's not atmospheric enough, if it's not open enough, since it's kind of a semi-open world, it's not fully open to explore, you can't go into every single nook and cranny that's within the game. But if this is something that really fascinates you, if you really love vampire lore, if you really want to be able to experience this story, be able to experience what it feels like to embrace these citizens and to make these choices, then please play this game. I feel like this game has been praised by a lot of people, but I feel like it's been slightly underrated as well. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of massive press about this game, and sometimes that's fine, you know, sometimes it's good to find that game that doesn't quite, like, get that massive praise, because, you know, sometimes if a game's, like, overpraised, it starts to come off as overrated, then it kind of creates a bad taste in some people's mouths, and then they start calling the game pretentious, and blah, 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 blah. But it's been a long time since I've been immersed in a kind of game like this, and hell, it even made me want to make a whole video about it. So, I mean, that says something, I guess. So if you haven't already, play this game. I mean, it's perfect timing too. It's almost Halloween. So please, like, this shit's awesome. But like I said, it's all about choice. So the choice is yours. Thank you so much for watching. This took me almost a whole month to make, and I've never really made a video like this before, especially this highly edited and regarding a certain piece of media, especially a game. But this was a lot of fun to make. Like, I genuinely enjoyed myself. I hope that you really enjoyed the video, and if you did, do the shebang for me. You know, like, you know, subscribe, like the video, comment, share it, do whatever you want. I would really appreciate the support, and it would give me the drive to want to make more stuff, whether it be another game or a movie. I'm really good at talking about movies. Or music. I'm also really good at talking about music. Literally anything. I love doing stuff like this. This is really fun. So, you know, let me know if you want more content like this, and I'll keep doing it. So thank you again, and I'll catch you soon. Maybe I'll make something else pretty soon if I have the free time. Yeah, stay tuned, and happy Halloween.